creep, a story wakes from winter's sleep. Krampus calls the chains to rattle. This isn't just a Christmas ballad. Morsels of Fiction coming here, twisted tale of Yuletide fear. Krampus moves, so hold on tight. The Alpine beast rules the night. We bring the Lord. Krampus knocks at your door.
Hello and welcome to Morsels of Fiction, the podcast where we unwrap the small but delectable stories that feed our soul. I'm your host, Matthew Posey, and today we're diving into a tale that's as chilling as it is fascinating. With Christmas just days away, you're likely surrounded by warm fireplaces, cheerful Christmas carols, and jolly old Santa Claus, just trying to eat up all those cookies before he gets here. Yum, 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 yum. But like me, you might like a little cultural divergence from the norm. Where this season brings a tradition of light-hearted, whimsical joy, there's times when you just enjoy a festive-themed horror story. This week, we're exploring the dark and devilish tale of Krampus, a figure who's been haunting Alpine folklore for centuries. So, grab a cup of cocoa, wrap yourself in a blanket, and be a little bad so we can learn all about the mysterious world of this horned holiday goat.
Krampus knocks at your door.
Fun fact, in some Alpine regions, people dress as Krampus and parade through the streets, playfully scaring onlookers during festivities. This is what we call the Krampus Run. It's a lively and chaotic celebration of the ancient folklore. Here's a little story I wrote all about Krampus that I think encapsulates why I find him to be such a fun character. The village glows with the spirit of the season. Candles flicker in windows, casting a golden warmth that dances against the icy panes. Children laugh and play in the snow, their cheeks rosy and their voices bright. The aroma of spiced cider wafts through the air, mingling with the faint notes of a carol carried on the wind. Tonight, the world feels softer, wrapped in the magic of Christmas. It is the eve of St. Nicholas' visit, and every door is adorned with garlands of pine and red ribbons. Shoes carefully polished sit lining along this threshold, waiting to be filled with fruits, nuts, and sweets by the kindly saint. Inside the cottages, families huddle together by crackling fires, sharing laughter and stories of generosity. This is a time for light, for hope, for joy. Yet beneath the festive glow lies a cautionary tale, whispered only when the children are tucked into bed. For every gift giver has a shadow, and St. Nicholas is no exception. Tonight, as kindness reigns, the figure of Krampus roams unseen. His role is not to bring joy, but justice. You walk through the snowy streets, the laughter fading as you leave the heart of the village. The quiet feels different here, heavier. The stars above are sharp pinpricks of light against the endless black, and the trees on the edge of the forest seem to lean closer. You've heard of the tale of Krampus, half goat, half demon, with curling horns and glowing red eyes. A creature of folklore meant to scare children into goodness, or so you thought. The wind picks up, carrying with it the faint jangles of chains. You freeze, the sound tugging at something deeper and instinctual. Slowly you churn, and there it is, Krampus. He is everything the stories describe, massive and horned, with a thick fur coat, steaming against the cold. His glowing eyes pierce the night, and his tongues flicker out like a snake's. Over his shoulders hangs a heavy sack, shifting slightly as if it's holding restless captives. Yet, as he moves closer, there is something different, something unspoken in his presence. You step back, your heart pounding, but Krampus halts. He tilts his head, studying you. You're not sure what he sees, but those burning eyes soften ever so slightly. Then, to your surprise, he speaks. "Merry Christmas, child!" His voice rumbles, deep and resonant, like the mountains themselves. You blink, too stunned to respond. Is this the same creature from the tales? The one said to punish the wicked? Krampus bends slightly, his massive form looming, but not threatening. He reaches into his folds of his fur and produces a small glowing orb, its warmth in your hands when he places it there. And as you look closer, you see a tiny flame flickering inside, a light that feels alive. "Take this," Krampus says. "Return to your home. St. Nicholas awaits, and you are meant to celebrate the season. Let this light remind you, goodness is a choice made every day." You nod, clutching the orb tightly. Krampus steps back, his chains jangling softly as he turns towards the forest. He pauses at the edge of the trees, looking back one last time. His eyes meet yours, and in that moment, you see not a villain, but a protector. One who ensures the season's joy remains as unspoiled by selfishness or cruelty. Then he is gone, swallowed by the shadows, and the forest falls silent once more. When you return to your home, St. Nicholas himself is there, his presence warm and kind. He smiles as you place the glowing orb on the mantle. It lights, joining the golden glow of the fire. The gift you find in your shoes seems sweet now. The laughter of your family is richer. Krampus's gift was not just a flame, but a lesson. One you will carry with you long after the season fades. And so on this night of joy and justice, you learn the truth. Krampus is not a villain. He's a guardian, ensuring the balance of the season, a shadow that protects the light. Merry Christmas, indeed.
In the frost, the shadows creep. A story wakes from winter's sleep. Krampus calls, the chains do rattle. This isn't just a Christmas ballad.
You see, Krampus serves as a counterpart to St. Nicholas, embodying the balance between reward and discipline. His presence in folklore reminds us that actions have consequences, a lesson often softened in modern celebration. While today's Santa gives coal to naughty children, it's largely symbolic, a playful nod rather than a meaningful consequence. Yet in Krampus's era, the punishments were tangible and immediate. Birch switches delivered a stinging that left no room for ambiguity. Bad behavior was addressed directly, teaching children that the importance of taking responsibility for their actions. Santa's coal is a curious relic of older traditions. In the 1700s, a piece of coal wasn't a punishment, it was survival. A family struggling to stay warm in winter would welcome coal as a particular gift. But as times changed, the material abundance grew, coal became a symbol of shame, a mark of failure. To meet expectations, this shift highlights how cultural values evolve over time, often losing the nuance of their origins. Santa Claus's naughty list introduces an interesting paradox. While it carries the idea of accountability, its consequences are abstract. Missing out on the joys of Christmas, for wealthy families, this punishment might mean fewer toys under the tree. But for impoverished children, it can feel like a lifelong sentence on the naughty list. Without context, these children may internalize feelings of inadequacy. Without context, these children may internalize this feeling, believing their circumstances reflect a moral failing rather than systemic inequality. Krampus's justice, on the other hand, was egalitarian. A rich child and a poor child were equally subject to the birch stick if they misbehaved. The lesson was clear and unambiguous. Your actions, not your social standing, determined your treatment. The gifts of Krampus and St. Nicholas times were modest. Dried fruits and nuts and simple toys, these treasures were meaningful, practical, and often served as small comforts during harsh winters. The joy of receiving these gifts didn't depend on wealth and material exceeding, but on the warmth of community and tradition. For the naughty, the lack of treats or a switch to the backside was a stark but fair reminder to do better. Krampus' story begins long before Christmas as we know it. His roots stretch back to pre-Christian Alpine traditions, where he likely originated as a pagan deity associated with the wild. Untamed forces of winter, ancient cultures often mark the darkest day of the year, with rituals to ward off evil spirits, and Krampus was thought to be one of these primeval chaotic forces. When Christians spread through Europe, the church worked to suppress these pagan celebrations. But rather than erasing Krampus entirely, his image has absorbed into the Christmas season as St. Nicholas' shadowy counterpart. By the 17th century, Krampus was fully immersed in Central European Christmas tradition alongside the saint. Parades, festivities. December 5th is Krampusnacht, or Krampus Night. On this evening, towns across Austria, Germany, and other parts of Europe come alive with parades featuring costumed Krampuses. These elaborate events, known as the Krampuslauf or Krampus Run, see participants dressing as the creatures, chasing revelers through the street. But don't let the costumes fool you. Krampus Night is a fun night for adults. Even though in traditional lore, Krampus didn't just scare children, today's Krampus celebration is more about the theatrical and revelry of the event, with nothing more than playful acting for the kids and nephews. Before we dismiss Krampus as just a terrifying holiday figure, let's explore the roots of his story and how they might not be as frightening as they first seem. Interestingly, Krampus's role as a punisher might trace back to real historical figures and practices that aim to balance justice with mercy. To understand Krampus, we need to look at his counterpart, St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas of Myria was a real historical figure, a 4th century bishop known for his generosity and care for children and the poor. Over time, he became a figure of myth and legend, celebrated as a bringer of gifts and protector of the innocent. But even in St. Nicholas's tale, there is an acknowledgement of accountability. He didn't only reward good behavior, but also emphasized the importance of self-reflection and correction. Krampus, as a folklore addition to the St. Nicholas tradition, might be seen as an exaggerated embellishment of this idea. Instead of merely handing out rewards, he served as a reminder that actions have consequences, a necessary counterpoint to St. Nicholas's forgiving kindness. And here's the thing. While Krampus's chains, horns, and lashing tongue might seem nightmarish, it's best to remember that scary fantasy stories are meant to be a child-friendly way to warn children against the harsh realities of the world. We often warn children to be wary of strangers offering candy in their van, because if the child is naughty and not listening to their parents, they might be offered a treat from a stranger who will pull them into a van and maybe kidnap them. Here, Krampus is not offering anything, but the children are being warned against any bad behavior, or else this beast will stuff them in a sack. It's really no different. In the end, Krampus is a symbol of both a festive balance in addition to a social self-reflection. He reminds us that Christmas isn't just about joy and generosity. It's also a time for reflection, making amends, and a reminder that when bad things happen to bad people, nobody will be all that sad about it. Now, if you're feeling inspired by the legend of Krampus, and want to bring a touch of his mischievous spirit to the holiday festivities, why not incorporate some Krampus-themed elements into the celebration? Whether you want to go all out with a full-blown Krampusnacht, or I feel like I keep pronouncing that differently every time, or just add a dash of dark humor to the holiday decor, here are some practical ideas to get you started. Try hosting a Krampus party, encouraging costumes. Serve Alpine treats like gingerbread, mulled wine, dried fruits, and play adult games or terrorize the nephews. When it comes to decorating, try to remember to incorporate some birch twigs and red berries and rustic candles, but add a dark twist with black and red accents. Served themed dishes like roast meats, blackened, maybe a little bit charred, breadsticks shaped like birch rods, or Krampus coal cookies made with dark chocolate and activated charcoal. Share the story. There's also films like the 2015 Krampus that can be found and watched around the holidays, or the 2010 Rare Exports, which I think has to do with some kind of mining into an area that then discovers some sealed off dark Krampus of some kind. I haven't actually watched it, but it's on my list. Organize a mini Krampus run. Get the community involved with dressing up and being part of a celebrated parade. And that wraps up our episode of Morsels of Fiction. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the shadowy sides of Christmas. The story of Krampus reminds us that even in a season of joy and goodwill, there's always room for a little playful darkness. If you're enjoying today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to Morsels of Fiction. And hey, if you have a moment, leave a review. Helps us reach more listeners who enjoy bite-sized stories like this one. Next week, we'll explore another intriguing tale to warm or chill your heart as we count down to the New Year's. Until then, stay curious, stay festive, and keep the stories alive. I'm Matthew Posey, and I'll see you next time on Morsels of Fiction.
Morsels of Fiction, created by Matthew Posey. A world of wonder, dark and cozy, with music by Sono AI. Stay tuned next week. Please like and subscribe, so these stories won't fade away. Krampus knocks, but have no fear, more tales are coming. Please like and subscribe, so these stories won't fade away. Krampus knocks, but have no fear, more tales are coming. Morsels of Fiction.